Hello and welcome to another very special chapter that we are doing today, and it's going to be very important. So always keep in mind, keep your mind sharp. Have a glass of water before you start. Just have your pen, notebooks, and pens ready because this is going to be very interesting as well as very important. Because today we are doing voice. Yes, active and passive voice is what we are going to do today. So yeah, without further ado, I've already given you much introduction. Let's begin. Active voice, passive voice. There are two special forms for verbs that are called voice, active and passive, right? In most English sentences with an action verb, the subject performs an action and that is denoted by a verb. When you report it, the active voice is the normal voice. You usually do it in the normal voice, that is the active voice, right? We use it most of the time. You are probably already very familiar with the active voice. What happens is in this, the object receives the action of the verb, right? So what happens, subject, and then you come with the verb, and then comes the object, SVO. This is how it works, right? The object is on the receiving end of the verb being done upon him. For example, cats eat fish, right? So cats is the subject, fish are the object, and eating is the process that being happening upon the fish. So the object is receiving the action, that is eating. What happens in passive voice? The passive voice is less usually used. It is used when the focus is on the action. It is not important or not known, however, who or what is performing the action, but that is secondary. All right, so in passive voice the subject receives the action of the verb. For example, the similar sentence that we use, cats eat fish, if we have to say it in passive voice, we'll say fish are eaten by cats. So the subject, it does not actually change, right? So the object becomes the subject, the verb turns into its passive form, and the subject becomes an object. It might sound a bit complicated, but trust me, it's going to be fun. Let's get into it. And how do we change active into passive voice? Remember these three rules, and I assure you, you'll always be able to change active into passive correctly. First thing, the subject turns to object. Most important. Always remember that. Second, always use the third form of verb, that is the past participle form, right? Bit, bite, bitten. Always use the past participle form, right? And always use by after using the past participle, that is V3 form of it will be followed by this. So if I have to put a structure to it, it will become subject, that is now, which was earlier the object, plus V3 plus by plus object, which was earlier the subject. This is how you structure an active voice into passive voice. Let's have a look at some sentences that have been turned already, right? Everyone drinks water. We turn it into water is drunk by everyone, right? So everyone drinks water becomes water is drunk by everyone, right? Similarly, uh, this company employs 100 people. 100 people are employed by this company. I am paid in euros. How do you do that? No? And the main, it's already passive. We are not paid in dollars, already passive. Are they paid in yen? Already passive. So these you don't convert, right? So you have to learn to identify how passive sentences come into being, how which sentences use passive voice, right? So when I look at the uses of passive voice, we use passive voice when we want to make the active object more important than the subject, or in second case we do not know what the active subject is, right? So if we have to make the object more important than the subject, then we use the passive voice, or when we do not know what on earth the subject is, then we use passive voice. Let's go ahead and look at some examples based on tenses. How do we change voices from active to passive? First, present indefinite tense, right? So it is subject plus V1 plus object, as you already know if you have studied tenses. The boy throws the ball. Do you eat fish? When I turn it into passive voice, the object goes in ahead of it. It is followed by is slash m slash r. All right. Then it followed by V3 plus by plus subject. So the boy throws the ball becomes the ball, it comes in front, the boy goes to the back, throws becomes thrown, is added here, by is added here, and it becomes the ball is thrown by the boy. Do you eat fish? Is fish eaten by you, right? This is how you transform a present indefinite active sentence into a present indefinite passive voice sentence, right? Object plus is MR plus V3 plus by plus subject. This pattern will be followed throughout. So if you just keep looking carefully, if I'm doing it in present continuous tense, present continuous tense is subject plus is MR plus V1 plus ing plus object. So children are swinging the swing in the garden. Ali is not riding a bike. When I turn it into passive, right, the swing is the object and it comes to the fourth. The swing is being swung by children in the garden. Garden is not an object, do not go with that. So if I put garden, where will I put the verb, right? So the swing is the object and swinging is the process that's happening. The garden is not swinging, so the swing is swinging, right? So the swing is being swung by children in the garden. This is how it transforms. Ali is not riding a bike. A bike goes to the front, Ali comes at the back, right? Is not remains there, is MR remains there. Riding becomes ridden because it changes to V3. Always change to participle, right? A bike is not ridden by Ali, right? So just remember, change subject to object, change the verb to V3, add by and then add object. As simple as that. Easy does it. Next up, present perfect tense. She has taken my book. My book has been. See, it's perfect tense. It will has been would be added here. She has taken my book. My book has been taken by her. So she becomes her. Right? Has he brought a pen? Has a pen been brought by him? Right? Bought becomes bought remains the same, right? Buy, bought, right? And yeah, so that's what. Change the subject and object, go for V3, right? It will remain the same. And yeah, that's how you do it. Present perfect continuous tense. Subject plus has or have plus been plus V1 plus ing plus since for plus object or time, right? So this is how present perfect continuous tense works. You also have to put in time here. And object goes here. So we have been waiting for the guest since Sunday. Has it been drizzling since morning? How do you convert it to passive voice? You don't. Present perfect continuous tense does not have a passive voice. So whenever a sentence is already in perfect continuous, you do not turn it to passive. No passive. It's already, it's just an active voice. Okay. Next up, past indefinite. Ali respected the elders. Did the child memorize the poem? The elders were comes in place of in just after the object. Then again, V3 plus by plus subject. Right. So it becomes the the elders were respected by Ali. Did the child memorize the poem? Was the poem memorized by the child? Right. Object, simple, switch the subject and the object, add was word to it, add V3, add by and then put the subject at the last. It will always continue in the same pattern until unless it's perfect continuous. So yeah, past continuous, the police was chasing the thieves were being comes in here, continuous, were being chased by the police. Was the tailor sewing the clothes? Were the clothes being sewn by the tailor, right? Object was verb being V3 by subject. Simple as that. Hardik as past perfect tense. Subject plus had plus V3 plus object is what past perfect tense makes. Simple. Change the object in the subject. Add been ahead of the had and let add by before the subject. So Hardik had completed his homework. Whose homework had been completed by Hardik. Had they not eaten the food? Had the food not been eaten by them? Right? Always remember subject becomes object, V3 is necessary, and add by after it. As simple as that, and half of the times you will get your passive voice sentence immediately. Last, past perfect continuous tense. The tailor had been sewing clothes for many days. Sparrows had been chirping since morning. Like we discussed in the present one, past perfect continuous tense also does not have a passive voice. It's all active. Let's have a look at how future tense works for it. So future indefinite, Ravi will play the match. The match will be played by Ravi. Will you respect your elders? Will your elders be respected by you? Right? Switch the subject and the object. Add will shall, because will shall is what keeps uh, you know future tense alive. Add be, add by after the V3, the third form of the verb, and put the subject in the end. As easy as that. Second, future perfect tense. Students will have solved the paper. The paper will have been solved by the students. Simple. See, perfect tense also uses V3 in its original state. So here you do not even have to change the verb. It will remain the same. Will milkman have given milk in all houses? Will the milk have been given in all houses by the milkman? Houses is not the object. The object is milk. The verb is giving it. Right? So always remember what the verb is, what the object is. But yeah, it will remain the same. Subject turns to object. Use V3. Add by before the subject. As simple as that. Future continuous tense, like the other two continuous tenses, this one also does not have any passive voice. So the peon will be ringing the school's bell, the farmer will be plowing in the fields. Okay, will happen, no worries. Future perfect continuous tense also does not have passive voice. Okay, so future continuous tense also does not have passive voice, nor does future perfect continuous. Right? So just work with these. I ate a piece of chocolate cake. Is it active or is it passive? It's active. If I want to put in passive, I'll put a piece of chocolate cake was eaten. The third form of eat is eaten by me. I becomes me, right? The librarian read the book to the students. The book was read to the students by the librarian, right? So the object becomes the subject becomes the object, we put by and we put the third form, read, read. The money was stolen. This is active or passive? This is already a passive verb, sentence. They are paid on Fridays. This is also another passive sentence, right? Let's have a look at some of at one example, and through it we'd be very close to understanding how exactly it works. So I'm looking at the infinitive, to be washed. Simple present, it is washed. Simple past, it was washed. Simple future, it will be washed. And conditional, it would be washed, right? So this is how it works. But when I'm using continuous, in present it is being washed, past it was being washed, future it will be being washed, and conditional it would be being washed. Perfect, it has been washed, it had been washed, it will have been washed, and it would have been washed. Perfect continuous, it has been being washed, it had been being washed, it will have been being washed, and it would have been being washed. So these are the passive forms of only one particular thing that's going on, right? So yeah, if the infinitive, if it is to be washed, this is how we use the word wash. And washed is the third form, all of it will be using it. And this is the usage of will, would have, has been, being, it would have been being, will be. So this is the cases how it is used. But again, and I cannot emphasize it enough, there is one short way of changing active voice into passive voice, right? Always remember it. Subject turns to object. Use the third form of verb, and always use by immediately after using the third form of verb. If you remember these three rules, children, I assure you, you'll always be able to change active voices into passive voices. That's all for this chapter. That's all for this lesson. I'll see you in the assignments parts. Let's go ahead and convert some active sentences into passive ones. I hope you like this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.